Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be replacing the upper forward and rearward control arms on a 2021 Audi Q5. You're going to find them located behind the wheel right in here. First thing I'm going to do is remove the front wheels. It's important to note that these are not the lug bolts. These are caps and these need to be removed with a little small pocket screwdriver. So these are the control arms here. You have the forward and the rearward right here. Now the thing with these control arms is that these bushings here, this bolt, you cannot tighten this bolt unless you have the correct curb height on the vehicle. Basically, the best way you're gonna be able to do it is if the vehicle is down on the ground on all four wheels. The torque specs for these bolts, this bolt needs to be replaced and it will be tightened down to 50 Newton meters as a joining torque with an angle torque of 90 degrees. Same thing with the bolt on this side. And then this nut right here with the pinch bolt on this side will also need to be replaced. This will be tightened down to 40 Newton meters. And for a complete list of all the tools, the parts, and the torque specifications that we are going to be using, please refer to the description below as a quick reference. Before raising the vehicle, make sure the parking brake is engaged. Okay, we're going to be starting on the right side. Now, if you've done any sort of research into this repair, other than this video, you'll know that people may have warned you already about this pinch bolt and nut. The thing is, if this thing gets seized in here, this can turn into a nightmare, basically. We're gonna see if this gets stuck. If it does, I don't want it to get stuck, but if it does, that's great because then I can show you how to deal with it. But ideally, you want this to just come out pretty easy. So this is gonna be a 16 millimeter. We'll just crack this loose and see if we're going to have a hard time or not. Okay, so the bolt is spinning. See here, right? See this right here? See how it spins? So right away I know this isn't seized. I'm gonna have a pretty easy time removing this bolt. Now I'm gonna use a punch to push this through the rest of the way. You're gonna notice these might pop up. That's fine, that's what they're gonna do. So here's a potential issue that you'll encounter is that once you loosen one of these or one of these comes off, the arm here shifted back. It's putting tension on this. You see this ball joint right here starting to lift up, it's coming up. What that's doing is it's putting pressure on this, so you're not gonna be able to pull this out really by hand. It's gonna be hard. What you can do is you can grab yourself a set of channel locks, something like this, and you're just gonna clamp it down like that, and then you'll be able to easily pull in and out the bolt. And then you're going to kind of move this around just so it comes out. Now the next thing you're going to need to do is remove the bolts for the control arm at the body. This one here is a 16 millimeter. On the driver's side, they're both 16 millimeters as well. But for the passenger side, this front one right here is different. That's gonna be a 13 millimeter 12 point. Looks like that. Now, before we get to that bolt down in the forward control arm on the right side, passenger side, come over here behind the airbox. You're gonna look to see for a nut right there. This nut needs to come off in order to remove the bolt. So we need to remove the airbox in order to access that nut. So you're going to need to remove the clamp here, remove this little snorkel. And to remove this, you also need to remove this front cover here. We're gonna start with the hood latch right here. There's a little plastic clip on the back side that you need to lever out in order to just pull this on up. Once you have it open like that, this will pop right up. Now all along the front right here, there are clips, and you just undo them by lifting up. And then you're going to lift up slightly and pull forward. That will reveal 2 T20 screws on either side here. My apologies, these are 2 T25s. Now you can just lift it up and pull this out. Now this airbox is just going to be a grab and lift up. There's a rubber grommet on this side, way down over here, and one grommet right here. So you can undo that one, pull from here, and this one should come out, and the whole box comes on up. This is the grommet right here. If these come off with the airbox, pull this out, detach it, and reinstall it back in, because putting it in will be much easier when this is on the car, not on the airbox. This is the top grommet, the bottom one here, and then the one that came off, we'll put that back in. So we loosened up the nut here, take this bracket off, and now we can go down on the inside and start removing it the rest of the way. Now coming in with a ratchet and a socket is going to be pretty hard. The strut and spring is going to be in the way. You won't get a straight shot. I'd recommend using a long wrench. Something like this. This will give you easy access to come in here. You have really good leverage, and you'll be able to loosen this up pretty easy. And once this loosens up, you're gonna notice this control arm is just going to fall. And that's because the bolt is tensioned at curb height. So when you go to reinstall it, this is pretty much the angle it's going to be on. But again, more on that later. Just so you know, this will just fall as soon as it loosens up. Now you can come in here by hand, just remove it the rest of the way. Now the control arm will just come right on out. And now we'll do the same for the one on this side. Now luckily on this side, you can fit your ratchet and still have enough space to loosen this up. Another option is to get a ratchet with a flex head. This will give you a little more access or mobility, so you can move the ratchet or the handle around as you need. So that's another option that you can use in order to remove this. One thing I need to re-emphasize is that this nut here needs to be removed first before you go and try to loosen up anything on the inside on the forward control arm. This is really important, because if you don't remove this nut first, you're going to be fighting the screw on the inside, and what can happen is that you can strip out the threads or pull the threads out on the nut over here on this side. So very important to remove all of this stuff, loosen up and remove the nut completely, and then come on the inside over here and loosen up and remove the bolt. Now for the parts, we're going to be using the Rearward brand. The part number for the front right upper forward control arm, which is this one here. This is the part number 3930701, and this is pretty much identical to what you're going to be replacing it with. So this is the new part, and this is the original one that came off the car. As you can see, they're pretty much identical. The markings here are a little different. Other than that, it's pretty much the same part. Now, if you are considering replacing just these bushings here, I would advise against that, just for the sole fact that you're going to be performing more work, and you're still going to be with the old arm and the old ball joint here. So, and then if you were to buy these parts, this brand, which is still really good, OE quality, you'll get the brand new bushing and a brand new ball joint, and the bag does come with a new pinch bolt and nut right here as well. Another thing is, if you're trying to DIY this, removing this bushing will require more specialty tools, and removing and pressing on these bushings are quite difficult. They're not an easy thing to do. So getting a whole new arm at pretty much the same price or cheaper is much better, less headache, less hassle, easier installation. One last thing, you might notice that your control arm has like a scratch here. All they're doing is removing a marking. It could be the Audi marking, or the Audi brand, or the VW brand logo here that can't be there because they're being sold as an aftermarket part. But sometimes when they do this, it's because it's the same factory that's making the parts for Audi. Okay, so we have a new bolt here. Remember, all the hardware we're going to be using, or all the hardware we're going to be removing, needs to be replaced. These are one-time use bolts. All the bolts are going to be in the description below, so you know what part numbers you need or what you need to reference. And this one here, the one that has the 12.13, this is the one that's different of all the rest, and it goes on the front right forward, and it's because the bolt right here gets smaller at the very tip. So we'll start to insert this bolt here. Okay, so this next piece of information is extremely important. Please pay very close attention when I start to explain how we're going to tighten up these bolts here, because these bushings cannot be tightened in any sort of way. You can't tighten down these bushings while it is, say, in this position, or way up here, or down here, or down here. You have to tighten down that bolt when the vehicle is sitting down on its wheels at proper ride height. It's very important, because if you tighten this down in a different position, you have now locked the bushing in that position. So when you go to lower the vehicle or put the vehicle back down on the ground, like let's just say, for example, you tighten down the bolt here in this position, and then you need to put it onto the swivel bearing over here, and you bring this back, and then this movement right here, you're overextending the bushing because it is locked in this position here, and as soon as you go to lift it up, that bushing is being twisted. And then once you put it in here, and if you were to put it in like this, while that bushing is locked in a different position, way lower, that bushing is going to prematurely wear out very fast, which is why you need to have it at ride height when you tighten it down. So right now, obviously it's not at ride height, so I'm not tightening down this bolt. What I can do though is I'll tighten it down just a little bit to where I can still move the arm. So I'm gonna go a little more just until it becomes a little harder. Okay, we'll see right there. I want it to basically be able to hold itself. Okay, right there. So it's tight enough to where it'll hold itself wherever I put it. Now look at the bushing on the inside here, okay? If I move it, see how the bushing kind of moves with it? If I go up, the bushing goes up. If I go down, the bushing goes down. And the bushing is this black part on the inside, okay? Now I'm gonna tighten it so I can show you what's gonna happen if you do it the other way around. So we'll tighten it just a little bit. Now look at the bushing here. See how it no longer wants to move? It stays in that position. So if I bring the arm up to get it into position, you're going to be overextending that bushing and it's not going to be resting, okay? So if I push down, I'm not tight a lot, so I can still get it to move. But this movement here is very different to when this was still loose. It is now locked in this position, and you can't lock down the control arm unless it's at proper ride height. So for now, all the control arms, this bolt is going to be just loose, where it'll hold itself but not locked down. Okay, so that bolt's on. We're just gonna put it all the way to the top over here to hold itself. And now we're gonna put the control arm, the rearward control arm over here. Okay, remember, replace the bolts. Do not reuse these bolts. They are one-time use. If you're going to do this job, do it correctly. And just so you know, another term for installing these bushings that you might hear is preloading them. It's the same thing. It's what we're going to be doing. So preloading the bushings means you're just going to set it, tighten them down at proper ride height. And as I'm doing the right side, I'm doing the exact same thing on the left side. I'm just not showing it on camera. So just make sure you're doing these steps at the same time on the other side. Move the control arm to the very top and just make sure the bushing here is free. So if you move it, it moves. See how the bushing still moves on the inside right there? That's what you want. So this is fine. Now we'll bring this forward, bring these down. If you have new control arms, this ball joint is going to be really hard to move the first time. So just work it, and then after you move it the first time, it's pretty easy to move, okay? Just a little note. And then you're going to position this inside of the hole. And you're gonna have to rock it back and forth a little bit in order for it to slide in, okay? And now you bring down this one, same thing. Okay, like that right there. And now we're going to install the pinch bolt. This is also a brand new bolt and a brand new nut. This bolt will not go through unless these control arms are all the way down, okay? So I can't get this bolt through right now because this has lifted up just a little bit. There you go. And now this bolt has now locked these control arms so they will not come up. And we're gonna just start this nut here. I'm gonna hold the bolt over here and we're gonna tighten the nut. And the goal here is just to bottom out the bolts, the bolt and the nut, so we can torque it down with the torque wrench. Now when it comes to ball joints, these are the ball joints. These do not require preload. Only those bushings up there require preload, which means we can torque down this bolt and nut to its final value right now. This nut right here will be tightened down to 40 Newton meters. Just so you know, I'm not putting any force here. This is just holding this bolt from turning so you can tighten down the nut. There you go, 40.7. Now remember, we're doing the same thing we're doing over here. We're doing it on the other side at the exact same time. So that's what I'm going to be doing, but I'm not showing it on camera. So this is the driver's side. Torqued down the nut to 40 Newton meters. New bolts, front and rear. And they're tightened down, but not tight enough so that the bushing can't move. You still want those bushings to be free of movement. Now from here, what we're gonna do is we're going to put the wheels back on, lower the vehicle, and then we can tighten up these bolts over here. Okay, now that the vehicle's down on the ground, you have the vehicle at curb height. So this is going to be the resting position that the car is going to be normally in. And now from here, you can tighten down the bolts. And these are going to be tightened to 50 Newton meters as a joining torque. And then you're going to do an angled torque of 90 degrees. Now you're probably going to be wondering to yourself, or thinking, this is not ideal space-wise to be torquing down these bolts. And you're right. But the reason why we have to do it this way is because we don't have the proper equipment or a lift in order to tighten down these bolts at right height. You can't preload the suspension doing it DIY because we don't have a lift and we don't have the proper special tools. So this is why I'm showing you how to do it. This is going to be the best way for you to do it and get really, really close to tighten down these bolts at proper right height without a lift. So that's the forward at 50. Now let's do the rearward. Now I understand the space is not ideal. 50 Newton meters. Okay, now remember, that's just the beginning torque, the joining torque. You still need to do a 90-degree angle on this. So you need to set your torque wrench to 90 degrees and turn that bolt an additional 90 degrees. But here's where you can cheat a little bit and help yourself out. You can raise the car again, remove the tire, so you have more space, because now that bolt is holding the bushing in the proper spot that it has to be in, and it's not going to move. So you can safely torque that bolt with the car lifted without it being preloaded or without the vehicle being at proper ride height, because it is already tightened down. And like how I showed you before, the bushing is not going to move from the position that it's tightened down at. So you can go ahead and tighten down the 90 degrees with the car up in the air. I'm gonna try to do the 90-degree angle torque with the tires still on, basically the vehicle still on the ground. I'm not gonna lift it, so I can tell you guys what it's like, and if I would recommend you just lift it back up again. Also, if you don't have a torque wrench that has an angle torque, what you can do is basically just come in here with a marker, and you can put a mark, say right here, direct at the very bottom in the center, and then put another mark right here, because this swing from here to here is 90 degrees. So if I were to mark it directly right here at the center at the bottom and put another dot right here, by the time I torque the bolt 90 degrees, the dot will have moved up here. Now let's do the rearward 90 degrees. So it is difficult. This isn't ideal, but it's not like you can't do it. It's just tight. It is annoying doing it this way. But I guess it's possible. So if you don't want to struggle with space, just lift the car up again and tighten it up. Because the swing, or the space you have here to swing the torque wrench, there's not a lot of space. I'm probably getting a few degrees every turn, every time I push. I don't know if you could hear it, but it's only ratcheting once every time. So you'll be here a while. All right, one of the little lights turned on. We're getting close. 2 lights. 3. This one should do it. 72 degrees, 74.9 Newton meters. Ugh. Okay, now I'm gonna torque the passenger side. This is the side that has that 12-point bolt right here. Once I torque these down, we're gonna finish up inside of the engine bay, that one 10mm nut that goes on that. Okay, I just finished tightening up the passenger side without the wheel. I recommend just removing the wheel again. This was so much easier than doing it the other way. So here's the bolt coming out from the forward upper control arm. Now the nut, you should replace it. Now the nut here isn't entirely necessary to replace, just because all it's holding is a simple bracket. It's just this bracket that goes here. And then it's just tightened down by the nut. So if you can't, now when I went to Audi to ask for that nut, they couldn't find it in their parts catalog. So because they couldn't find it, all I did was just go and find a regular 10mm, a brand new one that'll fit that thread. But this is safe to reuse because it's not holding anything other than this bracket, and this bracket isn't attached to anything. It's kind of just here. So it's not the end of the world if you reuse that nut. But I'm just going to be replacing it just because I found one. I also couldn't find a torque spec for this nut, so we're just gonna do this just good and tight. So as long as it's just snug down, the bracket's not moving, it's nice and tight, we'll just leave it like that. Honestly, this felt like 10 Newton meters, maybe 15. Not a lot of torque. Well, the air box is going back in. Just remember, you have these little tabs here that go into the grommets down there. That's one right there, and I showed you the other one earlier. Just guide it down. Make sure this right here goes under this. Same thing on this one. This one goes under here. When you put the hood release right here, make sure the back piece is unlocked, not closed. And then you'll notice too, there's going to be one of these that is bigger than the others. Bigger than the other as far as like these little things that stick out right here. This one right here is the bigger one. See how like it's small, and then this one gets bigger. It fits in a certain spot right there. So you can't mess up how this goes in. It's only going to go in one way. Alright, so that's the end of the video. If you liked it, if you learned something, or if I helped you save some money, consider subscribing to the channel and click right here on the top left corner for more videos on the 2021 Audi Q5. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.